Where do Aleksander Barkov and Sam Reinhart rank in the Selke Trophy race? We discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this Friday, December 8th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MonoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. You can follow this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And don't forget to smash that like button on the YouTube. And also, if Locked On Panthers was one of your top podcasts on Spotify Wrap for the calendar year of 2023, feel free to share that with us on the socials on either X or on Instagram as well. So the Florida Panthers break their 3-game home losing streak against the Dallas Stars with a 5-4 victory over the Dallas Stars on TNT, but it is a Friday, which is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. And it's been a little while since we have done a Fairbanks Friday edition with the holiday and last week being with the travel and all. But Nick, it's great to have you back, and it's great for us doing a podcast together once again, my friend. I missed you, dude.
It's great to be back. I missed you as well. But the boys are playing better. They're mostly healthy, and going into the next holiday here, all we can hope is that they continue to play well and stay healthy.
No doubt. And with the Panthers on Wednesday night against the Dallas Stars, man, we spoke about how the Panthers where the issues where the Dallas Stars were odd man rushes, and that's something that we really saw really towards the middle part of the first period. I mean, when you think about how this game started with the 6-0 shot on goals with the Dallas Stars, and then it's funny because the first period was really the only period in the game where it was one team had a consecutive shots on goal over and over again, and then trading 4 or 5 chances in a row. But then the last 2 periods were really when they were starting to like alternate the possession. But even when the Florida Panthers scored on their first goal by Evan Rodriguez, great stretch by Nico Mikkola, and all on their pretty bad pinch by Ryan Suter there. But there was a little bit of a lull with the shots on goal. Things started to settle down and all, but man, the Florida Panthers really, this was a game full of puck retrieval and forechecking, and a lot. I usually sometimes in a game we'll be lucky to see one goal that a shot is missed, goes off the end board, and then a rebound from the boards. But we saw multiple times that on Wednesday night, and we saw the Florida Panthers, especially in their first 3 goals. The first 3 goals out of their 5, they were going towards the blocker side of Jake Ottinger. They were really exposing that front as far as the Dallas Stars, and even the Panthers. They survived a line change for the Dallas Stars going into the third period. Jamie Benn was going up on that top line, Jason Robertson out and all, but even before that Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski line, outshot attempted 3-11, and shots on goal 0-5. So Panthers really survived that. But this goes without. We have to mention the top line, 9 points total for Rodriguez, Reinhart, and Barkov. Evan Rodriguez, a 4-point night, second time this season that he's had that. Sam Reinhart gets on the score sheet again, only one behind Brock Besser, Barkov with 2. But even the second line, even though they only had 2 points on the night, man, that line was firing early. Verhage got 6 shots on goal as well. Man, the top 2 lines, that was really the story of the game. What were your biggest takeaways from Wednesday night?
Well, I think I'd be remiss to say that Florida usually dominates the first couple minutes of a game, like outshooting the opponent maybe 8-9-1, and Bobrovsky and or Stollarz lets in the first goal, and it's completely deflating. Opposite happened in this game, which I was very happy to see, especially with that pass from Mikkola over to Rodriguez, who I'm very happy is now starting to come out of his slump. He looks like he's getting his confidence back. He's playing a little bit better, but it just feels good to be on the other side of that, and being able to not only play with one of the best teams in the league, but one of the heaviest teams in the league. They had some pretty big boys on that team, and Florida didn't back down from it. But um, both teams traded chances. No team was ever out of it, which, I was kind of sitting on one butt cheek during the latter part of the third period because I'm like, yeah, Dallas came back. Okay, Barkov scores a fluky goal. Okay, is Dallas going to tie this up and we're going to have a really exciting end of the game? But luckily, Florida was able to pot another one and just put the game away. But I will say this, it was good to have them back home and actually win one for once.
Yeah,
It's been a little while.
it's been quite a bit, but hey, thankfully there was that road trip in Eastern Canada that had the Florida Panthers in a positive trajectory. And yeah, the Barkov goal, like nobody knew where that puck was except Barkov there, and then that sharp angle shot that one of the later ones that actually went towards Ottinger's glove side, but also the give and go with him and Reinhart and just back and forth playing catch. Like we said, the top two line, the second line for the Dallas Stars, the Marchment, Matt Duchene line, Tyler Seguin, that was the best defensive line, and the Panthers really exposed them on the
Yeah.
night, and they look like the Edmonton Oilers there a little bit. I know the Edmonton Oilers are on a winning streak right now, but man, from when we saw the Edmonton Oilers, that's kind
Yeah.
of what it looked like there for the Panthers. And really, for me, I thought this game was won, even though the Panthers did eventually go up 5-3 when they scored 24 seconds in for Hagee on a little bit of a rush there as well. Sam Bennett gets to him as well. But man, you gotta give a lot of credit to everybody around. It was almost a 60-minute performance, not quite, but for the most part it was there. And the Panthers, they survived. They got this with only having one power play goal. I know the crowd was a little restless at times. Matthew Tkachuk getting hit up high as well. Kevin Stenlin as well. But for the Panthers, it was you got to give them a lot of credit when they were up 5-3. The foot was not off the gas on the night.
No, and I'm glad that you mentioned the second line and you did it just before too, but I thought that was probably their best game of the season collectively together. I know Tkachuk didn't score, but Bennett was flying out there. He was causing havoc, doing his usual antics after the whistle.
With hints.
To Yep, exactly. And you had Chuck, who was playing his game. He looked like he was back in the Eastern Conference Final again. Getting the pucks below the line and making things happen. And the Verhage does what he does best, is that he puts the puck in the back of the net. So it's good to see that the first line and second line were clicking. Third line and the fourth line, they did have some chances. I know Lundell had a few chances, but I thought they played pretty well defensively, which they didn't a lot. They didn't allow a lot of chances, but it came down to the end of the game where Florida would just, they stacked it up and they blocked every shot in the final minute, so that Bobrovsky didn't really have to sweat it too much.
Yeah, and the Panthers as well. They even though they went on a pretty good streak of not allowing goals on the PK, they allowed two on the night, three in the last two games, and the one that Bob would like to have back on the shot from Thomas Harley from the point
Yeah.
where he thought it was going to be redirected, but Thomas Harley for the Stars was noticeable because Bob was trying to stretch pass to Evan Rodriguez, and Thomas Harley intercepts that in the neutral zone, and then he scores later on in the game. I was like, damn it! So when you see that happen as well, and also two former Panthers scoring as well, but both second power play units for the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars scored on the night as well. So that's one thing of note for this one as the Panthers, they went up against a heavyweight and they won the battle, and it just goes to show that you can in fact battle with the big boys. I mean, we knew that when they went to Stanley Cup final, but it reassures that in game number 25 of the season. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss where Sam Reinhart and Aleksander Barkov rank as far as their race for the Selke Trophy. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors, and passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Back on this second segment here on this Wednesday, December 8th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. A little bit of news in the Florida Panthers, in the world of the Florida Panthers, is Panthers 2022 sixth round pick Josh Davies has signed his entry-level contract. A little bit of what he's doing in the WHL this season. He is fourth on the team for the Portland Winterhawks in points. And one thing, if you have watched development camp or even prospect or rookie showcase, is this man is a grinder. He gets in front of the net, dirty areas, and is not afraid to drop the gloves. So great, big congratulations to Josh Davies on signing his entry-level deal, which will start next season. So big congratulations to him. But Nick, I wanna discuss about this one post that thankfully was shared by the GOAT of Florida Panthers Twitter, David Rodriguez, the other day, on the metric that where Aleksander Barkov and Sam Reinhart rank as far as top defensive forwards in the NHL. And we spoke about all about their 5-on-5 numbers, and yeah, Sam Reinhart is definitely doing it on both ends. But this post that he had from the Athletic, which, funny enough, the third person in this ranking was Tyler Seguin, who the Florida Panthers just saw on Wednesday night. But Aleksander Barkov and Sam Reinhart are both number 1 and 2 in as far as defensive rating. As far as that, just goes to show how much they built together. And to think that this was a unit that was struggled to fit last season. And we also got to give credit to Paul Maurice as far as that, because of not giving up on that pair too. What are you think about as far as where Barkov and Reinhart rank together as far as defensive rating?
Well, now that Patrice Bergeron is retired and playing in alumni games up in Boston, I think it's safe to say Barkov is exactly where we expect him to be. However, I didn't expect him to be this damn dominant. I mean, you look at the numbers and everything, and he is a madman on both ends of the ice. He's creating, plays in the offensive zone. But again, we always talk about the little things that he does on the defensive side. He's been more active, and his presence has been felt more this season than I think in any other season defensively. You just see him back checking furiously. He's hitting. All right. He's not letting up. He's hitting guys, and he's making sure that, the team is making the right plays. And, I think it helps to have Sam Reinhart on his wing, because he knows he can get him the puck and he will do the right thing. He won't try to extend a play by himself. If he doesn't have a play, he's going to dump it down deep so they can get a change. It's a very smart pairing that Maurice put together. But to say that they were 1 and 2, I never would have predicted that. I'm very happy for Sam Reinhart and his contract number.
Yeah,
It's kind of like cryptocurrency right now. It's like Bitcoin. It just keeps going up.
Yeah, and the value is only going high. And if you're Sam Reinhart's camp, I think you want to test the market. Yeah, you are definitely testing the market for sure. And other defensive forwards that they are a little ahead against Mika Zibanejad, Teuvo Teravainen, Wild Bill, William Karlsson, Chris Kreider. Those are other guys that those two are ahead of. They are 1 and 2. Crazy to think as well. But I do want to share a clip with you guys on what Evan Rodriguez said about the Panthers defense, as far as him playing alongside those two guys.
Yeah, that's where offense comes from. You catch teams trying to cut through the middle or make plays, and when you turn it over, how many goals are scored off turnovers? That's usually what you see. You get on-man rushes off of that. So, like I've been saying, not cheating the game, letting the team kind of come to us and just pouncing on those turnovers. And then when we get in the O-zone, just hanging on to pucks, wearing teams down. And I think those are kind of our two focuses, and we've done a really good job of that.
The thing I take away from that statement is the Panthers' ability to be patient, and this is one thing that Randy Moeller talks about a lot, especially in the broadcast, and especially when the team is on the penalty kill. The Panthers are not caught out of position, and that's really what it comes down to. And even with Sam Reinhart, and Paul Bissonnette had a breakdown of Sam Reinhart in the Panthers zone on battling in the corners, taking away the time and space and all, and we are really seeing a line that's really been a force for this team. And I mean, yeah, the biggest highlight play that we have probably seen as far as defense turning into offense in transition was what happened last week when Barkov had that breakaway goal against the Canadians. But that's just one of many. But it just goes to show the patience level that this group as a collective truly has.
It does. And, you mentioned that, Sam Reinhart is able to position himself to take away time and space. And those are the little things that, we're kind of talking about, that you don't really see in a score sheet. You're not going to see maybe in statistics, like with the analytics and everything, but those little things do add up because the other team has to adjust with how you're playing them. If they're playing aggressive and they know that they can take it to the Panthers, well, the Panthers are right there to counter that right away. And then you have like a, odd man rush, 2-on-1, 3-on-2, or maybe even a 3-on-1. And that's what they're set up to do. They're set up to not only stop you either at the blue line, but they're going to win those battles along the boards and below the blue line, or the red line, sorry. And, that's exactly what Paul Maurice wants. Paul Maurice wants a tough game. Like he's perfectly okay with playing the dump and chase game as long as they're winning puck battles and they're allowing the offensive team or the other team to choke and give up the puck. So it's worked perfectly so far, set for almost a calendar year now, I'm going to say. Let's hope it continues. And let's just hope that Florida can take advantage of more of those mistakes, because I know that there's one particular player right now on the roster that people are concerned about that they shouldn't be, because once it goes through, one or two of them, I'm going to say about 20 or 30 are going to go through.
It could possibly be game over. And if you guys are one, and if you, I'm just going to say the name. Yes, Matthew Tkachuk is definitely on that. Not having the offensive production, which I'm going to give myself a little bit of a shameless plug here. If you guys want to check out my article on Matthew Tkachuk from the Hockey News, I did write an article today on Matthew Tkachuk and his concern level, or lack thereof concern level, for his lack of goal production as he broke his 10-game goalless drought on Saturday against the New York Islanders. And one thing he cares about, and one thing only: win, win, win. And the Panthers, think about that song that the Amerant Bank Arena plays every time the Panthers win. Just think about that song: win, 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 win.
That's all that matters. That's really all that matters. I mean, to say that he hasn't played that well this year is an understatement. I mean, he's not putting up the stats that he did, but the team has still found other ways to win, and they had the identity set from the onset where they're just going to shut it down. I mean, without
Mhm.
Ekblad, without Montour, they're number 1 and number 2 in most defensive statistics, and that's without a lot of scoring. Imagine
Mhm.
he starts scoring, Barkov starts putting the puck in more, Bennett's going to start scoring more. Hopefully the third line starts doing something, because I'm starting to really chip away at that, and I really want that line kind of disbanded a little bit. But that might be a topic for another show, if it happens or if it doesn't happen. But I think slowly but surely we're going to start peeling back those layers, and you're going to see more of a complete team. And Matthew Tkachuk is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and thankfully, when it comes to going back to the Panthers and shutting it down defensively, thankfully they put themselves in that situation, because more often they have gone into third periods with leads instead of trailing. And going back to what happened on Wednesday, excuse me, the Dallas Stars are kind of comeback kings in the
Mm-hmm.
NHL so far this season, and the Panthers definitely weathered that storm. So a little bit of going back to what happened. So credit to the Panthers on eliminating that and holding on for mostly this season. They're 11-0-1 when leading going into the third period. So that is something worth noting for but we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to preview tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Pittsburgh Penguins as they welcome Sidney Crosby and company to town. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. And I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities in real life, but can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin, however you pronounce that, right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. I can imagine a more helpless feeling than if you or a family member gets sick while a supply chain issue keeps your loved ones from life-saving medication that they need. Thankfully, your family will be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, cystitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code locked on to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. Third and final segment here on this Friday, December 8th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So, Florida Panthers, Pittsburgh Penguins, one of 3 matchups this season between the Florida Panthers and the Penguins. And these two teams obviously are so interconnected from last season. After everything that happened, thank you, Chicago Blackhawks, once again. And this franchise, they were not happy with not making the postseason. GM change and the change to the roster, bringing in Erik Karlsson, Kyle Dubas is in, and there's weirdly questions on if the Penguins don't make the playoffs again, and what do they do with Mike Sullivan? Which, if that man gets fired today, he will get a job just like that. So honestly, it would be a big mistake, in my opinion, if they do let him go. But for this Penguins team, the big top game point is what's going on with special teams for the Penguins. They're 5-on-5. Their numbers are outstanding. Sidney Crosby, at 5-on-5, one of the best in the NHL, even on the power play, even. But man, what a rough start for the power play for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this is coming where they're actually getting goaltending. When we looked at that contract from Tristan Jarry in the offseason, I think a lot of fan bases collectively were just saying, ooh, when seeing that contract due to the injuries and inconsistent play. But he's been the least of the Penguins' issues this season. And I'm gonna list power play 1 for the Penguins: Malkin, Crosby, Gensel, Letang, Carlson. When you look at those names, I think of puck dominant players on a power play. And yeah, they're a little older. This is a group that's a little older, but and the conversation has been, why don't these guys get split up? And hasn't happened yet for these guys. But these guys rely on being on the puck, and when you have 5 of those guys out there also tends to be time to overthink things too. How are you viewing how the Penguins power play, which their power play percentage is at a 9.9%, 30th in the league, and they have given up almost as many shorthanded goals this season as they have scored on the power play. So not great for the Penguins.
So a couple things come to mind. Number one, I am one of those people that kind of like, ooh, Trish Jari, that contract. It's going to turn out that way, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I honestly view him standing on his head right now. But then when the Penguins start to turn it around, they get their power play going, he's going to be letting everything in. So it's just going to be the tale of Pittsburgh for the last season and a half. But I think of another thing to go with their power play. I don't think it was broken. You had Chris Letang, you had Crosby, you had Malkin, you had Gensel. They were fine. You had Erik Karlsson into the mix, somebody who's supposed to be a superior power play quarterback. What does that do? It starts diminishing Chris Letang. It'll diminish Crosby and Malkin, what they're trying to do, because they have to get used to how he wants to do it. And he probably wants to hold on to the puck most of the time. And unfortunately, they just haven't found a way. And I wonder if Sullivan's just keeping them together and say, hey, you guys need to figure this out. You guys are probably the best, or if not generationally the best players over the last 20 years. And you guys need to put this together. Because, if I can put the second unit out and they start scoring, then what do I need you guys for? We're playing great 5-on-5, but, if we can't get the power play going, then, why did we bring Karlsson in? He's a defensive liability. He was supposed to, make their power play scary. Not so much. They're over 34 in their last, I think, 5-6 games. It's just, you think Florida's got problems? Pittsburgh has a huge mole mountain to climb.
And going back to your point, before they added Karlsson, they were middle of the pack on the power play. And yeah, on paper, you're thinking, wow, they were 16th. That can only go up, right? This is a 100-point defenseman coming into the mix who won his 3rd Norris Trophy, correct? Not so much for that. And it is also just the nature of the sport of hockey. When putting a lot of superstars together in one doesn't guarantee success. It really has. When we say complete team effort and lines 1 through 4 and the D pairings too, it really comes down to that as well. So really it just hasn't worked out for Pittsburgh as well. And here's the weird, this is the weird thing too about the Metro that I just noticed today. This is going in today and into today before Thursday night's scores go final. 2nd place and 7th are only separated by 4 points too. Pittsburgh has been a disaster on the power play, and yet they're still in striking distance for the division. And this is and when you look at Carolina, number 2, goaltending has been a nightmare. And even after the game, the Panthers Stars, 41 seconds into Edmonton Oilers, Carolina Hurricanes, Edmonton scores twice in 41 seconds. So that Metro division for Pittsburgh, despite all their struggles, still very wide open. They're 11-11-3, so right at 500. So still time, but I mean, I'm not a Pens fan, so I don't know where my panic meter would be if I were there. But if I were, I would say 6 if you're a Penguins fan, what's your panic meter at?
It's a good point to make. And, I know a lot of the fans, and, you see on Twitter, you see on social media, the hockey boards, some fans want Sullivan gone. They think he's the problem. He's the one that's holding them back. And, it's his style that he's trying to preach to them, and they're just not listening anymore. Have you seen half your team? They're like over 35 on the wrong side of 35, and you expect them to play with the same energy and the same vigor that they had when they were younger or when they were winning the cups. It's not the same. Um, I just think Pittsburgh is on a downward trend, and they made this trade to kind of extend their little window that they had. But you know what? When you lose to Chicago and miss the playoffs, and then you go into opening night and you lose to Chicago again, I don't know. You got to kind of look yourself in the mirror. I really don't see Pittsburgh actually. I can't remember if I had them in the playoffs or not, but I don't think I did. I think they're going to miss again this year.
I had them there, but I did not have the Washington Capitals being in a better position than the Penguins. I was not expecting the Capitals to just be so great defensively, despite their lack of scoring from Aleksander Ovechkin as well.
Yep.
And I'm just like, you're like scratching your head and looking at this. I'm like, wow. And all their issues with Evgeny Kuznetsov as well, and what his future is looking like, and all their
Backstrom
injuries to Backstrom as well. So I'm pretty shocked that Washington is actually ahead than Pittsburgh.
No, and that's the thing is I think you also see that one team is definitely decided to alter its identity a little bit. The Capitals, they know that they're on the other side as well, but they're going to play more defensively. They have some younger guys that are coming up that are actually starting to play well. Pittsburgh, we're going to still go with the old guys, and hopefully, we have one more rodeo to go with them. But they haven't really been able to clamp down on what they want to be this season. They think just bringing Carlson in, it's going to fix everything. Guy's terrible at defense, but he's supposed to help your power play. Well, how's that going for you? And same thing with the Panthers, and same thing with the Hurricanes. I don't know what's going on with them. I know you said it was the goaltending, but I think there's something going on there. Like, they're not the same team right now. They're not dominating people. They're getting dominated. And, I don't see their top guns coming to play. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be the Rangers' year this year to run away with the Metro, and maybe this will allow teams like Detroit, and maybe Ottawa to sneak into the playoffs this year. I'm not giving Buffalo anything. No.
Yeah, there's still a lot of time for Ottawa with their games in hand, but with the Rangers, Jonathan Quick looks to be back.
Yes, sir.
Did not think that was going to happen after the last few seasons that he had with the Los Angeles Kings, which the Kings are a wagon. My goodness, they're fun, and I think they're about to be 11-0 on the road to start the season. My goodness, so what a fun team as well out west. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Another successful Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Thanks for having me on again, Armando. And everybody, you can follow me on X at Prudentia0. Look forward to speaking with all of you and chirping a lot of Maple Leafs fans over the last couple days, because they don't like how their year ended up last year. And I put up a picture of my favorite moment of the year, and they're not liking it too much. So anyways, if I don't hear from any of you guys, I hope you have a safe holiday season. Armando, if we don't have another show before Christmas or any other holiday, I do want to wish you the best.
Thank you. And one more note before we sign off. The Sharks have more regulation wins than the Leafs. So that's want to put that out there. So
here's the question. Did they win tonight?
Yes, in overtime against Detroit. So that's a good way to end it. So if you're listening on the YouTube, you will see Nick's reaction to that for sure. But if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.